the truth is, like right now, this is what we're working with.
Yeah.
And you ought to be a part of a community. And you ought to not be making a ton of trouble in that community. And so what my pastor friend was explaining was that there can be situations where, hey, this is the pastor of this church and they're moving in this direction. You may not want to move in that direction. It's not necessarily your role to change the whole direction of the church. You may just need to go in another direction.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think sometimes we feel pressure of like, man, if I go in another direction, I'm defecting from the church and I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of sin and all this stuff. And unfortunately, that does happen a lot of times because people leave for the wrong reason. But there is right reasons to move a different direction, it seems like. And there's okay reasons that aren't always like, this is the center and this is
the person
same.
is right.
Yeah. That there are oftentimes, especially in our current church culture, where there's probably misunderstandings and wrongs on both sides. And these topics aren't as cut and dry as we like to make them sometimes to kind of fit in our church culture boxes. But this is an active discussion as the church body at large, that how we can begin to continue to reform the way that we go about things. And actually, what I believe is we just ought to get back to the original design of the church and listen to what Paul is saying with how we ought to structure things, not elevate one leader as this divine representation of our congregation, but begin to operate more like the early church.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And I also think it's really valuable just to sit with that a little bit longer about you can disagree and nobody's in sin.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we have so lost. We just don't have it in our church, that we can disagree and nobody sinned. And I think the prime example is Paul and Barnabas arguing over John Mark. Paul said, I don't want to take him. He was a liability. He bailed on us. I imagine he just said, frankly, I don't trust him. And Barnabas was the encourager. He always wanted to get behind the little guy. He wanted to elevate people. He was willing to go slower, to be with the guy. And Barnabas said, no, I want to give him another chance. I want to take him. I don't care if he slows us down. This is what I'm imagining their conversation like. And they just said, you know what? We disagree, so let's part ways. And nobody sinned. Nobody was wrong. It doesn't say Barnabas was wrong or Paul was wrong. Paul just picked people who was going the way he was going.
Yeah.
And Barnabas picked John Mark, who he wanted to go with. And they split friendly. It was not a bad thing. So just to know, if we keep that in mind, that this is a community investing trust in the people that they say, this is who I want to lead me, then you can say, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to be led by those people. Maybe I don't trust you, or maybe, God's put something different in my heart. So you join a community that's going the way you want to go, and you can split and not be disloyal. You can split and not be rebellious. You can split and just say, yeah, we're from Central Texas, but if you're going to Houston and I'm going to Dallas, we need to be in two separate cars, and that's fine. Like, God needs to reach Houston and Dallas. It's fine. It's not a bad thing, and it doesn't have to be a result of sin. We can shake hands, take communion together, be a part of one body in two different churches, go in two different ways with two different emphasis.